Hello, 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 and welcome back to the game, a Pax8 show where our experts go over the innovations and the latest threats in cybersecurity. I'm Rob Barnes, and I'll be joined by Matt Lee and DomKirby, and a special guest today, Marc Menzies. I'm going to mess that up, and he's going to give me shit as soon as he gets in here. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that either. But to discuss cybersecurity and the importance of an audited compliance in the industry. Matt really gave me a hard, verbal tongue twister here. Without further ado, and without me messing this up even more so, and you guys having an incredibly entertaining moment, be sure to like and subscribe down below, comment, and share this to all your friends that you think would like it. We're going to get started with the news today, and we will jump right in.
All right. Well, Rob, I think that was a fantastic start. I like to get the energy going early, right? Like, it's okay. I still love you. Anyways, thank you so much for that introduction. Like Rob said, today we're going to get into some news real quick, and then we're going to get deep into talking about audited compliance and why it matters. And Dom, I think, you certainly agree that we should have some degree of being able to prove to others externally and have trust. And I think that's what audited frameworks do. Yeah, fair. Yeah. Let's go into this first article, right? Sorry, Dom, I cut you off. I'm already cutting people off too. This is just, the way we roll sometimes, but
No. I was just agreeing with you,
Okay, sort of fair. Let's do it.
In our world.
Agreed. All right. So one of the things that's coming towards that is you have to have standards to have proof. You have to have something to adhere to be able to go forward. And one of the greatest things I saw last week was this came out back in July 21st that they're putting out an RFC on a draft release of NIST 866. Rob, would you go ahead and tell the audience what 800? I'm just totally messing with you, man. That's not nice. I don't feel good about myself.
I can't do that. No, we'll just go back to what you were saying.
Yeah, fair. But essentially, the Health Information Portability and Availability Act has been around for a very long time. In fact, it's one of the oldest.
Hold on. Wait, I get to correct you on an acronym. What is it? Health.
You do?
Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act.
I think it's health information. I would disagree with you.
It says right here on the article, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act.
It is. I'm wrong. Oh my God, Matt Lee has definitely failed on an acronym. I feel better about myself as a human. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, correct, Dom, HIPAA. Over here. HIPAA has come out now asking for a draft review and change of Rev 2 of the initial guidance document. And if we remember, HIPAA has been one of those kind of amorphous frameworks in the sense that it was really just have a plan, do it, and you're probably okay. Now we're starting to see more meat come into this, right, Dom? Have you had a chance to review some of this?
Has been absolutely useless for years, right? Like it was very rarely audited. They had the whole wall of shame thing, but by the time you got on the wall of shame, you screwed up so bad that you leaked everyone's data. So putting some teeth on the front end of this, like in the mouth instead of on the other side, is pretty helpful in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the point to be made is like we always should see iterative improvement. Dom and I say this on the show all the time that, part of the game is that it's always improving. Go back to this parallel of saying, hey, if a coach steps out on the field for American football, sorry for my global audience, but I'm just not that cultured. But if a coach steps out on the field for defense and says, I'm never, ever, ever going to allow a yard, we'd think them an idiot, right? And so it comes down to if that left guard's getting beat and someone's coming in and we're having a lot of yards gained on us because of that, we have to adapt. We have to teach that player to kneel down. We have to have plans. And in the same way, it looks like these draft documents on Rev 2 is asking for more of that kind of stuff, of frameworks that actually talk towards this is how you should secure your systems. This is the way you should implement MFA. These are the things. So I do like that we're starting to see growth in that and iterance in that. So that's kind of the first piece I wanted to touch on from HIPAA. And you're right. It's been useless since 96.
It's been a bit of a joke.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I was literally at a dental practice today with my kiddos. And there's just so many unlocked screens with the dental software or whatever. Dental software is terrible in the first place, by the way. But then there's
let's not talk about Dentrix or Patterson or never mind.
But just appointment calendars and all kinds of children's names right there on the screen. It's like, man.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the point, right? When we talk about, go ahead. When we talk about frameworks, when we talk about frameworks, though, like they're meant to say, here's where someone screwed up, here's where you can lose, here's how you fix from losing, right? And when you think about that, it's stuff like, hey, lock your screen. Don't leave patient information up. But But it also extends out to potentially the vendors obfuscate data on the screen. I don't need to see more than Mary H after I've pulled it up based on that record. I don't need to see all of that data about birth dates or last appointment visits. It doesn't have to be in that screen. And I think the challenge you face, and you pulled my string on this, Dom, like I'm not your friend right now, but you know, when it comes to dental software, that's an example of a vertical that is just absolutely horribly screwed. My first learning of how hard it was to transfer a flat file database was because I tried to copy 197,000 little .db files for Patterson Eaglesoft. And at that point, right, that was is start, stop, copy. And so what was supposed to take 2 hours based on my calculations that were clearly wrong, just like HIPAA and my inability to remember an acronym. Like I'm beating myself up over this. But as we found out, it was 22 hours. I was sitting there with a down office for what? Lost him. Oh, thanks. But for 22, we don't hear you. But for like 22 hours, and it was one of those things. But the point is that archaic debt, the tech debt that gets built up, makes it to where even if we were to try to say some of these things, they probably don't have the capabilities to implement a lot of these more safe practices around that.
Yeah, but here's my question: if they're actually finally revisiting 866, which I never thought would happen.
Yeah.
So kudos, number one. Will they, once this is done, will HHS actually randomly audit practices?
I think what you'll start finding,
and business associates, you know, any party.
I think what you'll start finding is FCA. That's what I've heard recently in several conversations I've had, is that they could apply that through DOJ. And I think there's actually an article. It was a compliancy group that said something to me about it. It was Paul. But now they're starting to say, we're going to take the same, you know, False Claims Act that we talked about a couple of episodes ago, Dom, with respect to Aerojet, and apply that same exact premise to say, you said you were following these guidelines in HIPAA, you're not, which means a whistleblower. That, I mean, how many CMAs and like go through the ranks at a doctor's office that are mad when they leave at $7 an hour after working scut work and go, you know what? They're not following it. Dom saw this patient's data that was on the front screen. Let's go turn them in. You could see a world where that is sourcing, crowdsourcing, if you will, at least that. Let's get on to the Dom, you want to kick off the next article for us, Rob?
You know, speaking of fantastic software, I'm joking. I actually find Confluence to be a fantastic piece of software, but maybe some poor development practices, some oopsies. Atlassian is coming out and talking about their hard-coded administrative, or I don't think it was administrative, was it? But it's a hard-coded password in the Confluence code base. So they had some justification for it. I don't even want to go over it because it's not justification. But long story short, you're running Confluence on-prem, please patch it. There's a hard-coded password in there that will let you in. And you know who's a big consumer of Confluence? Universities, tech startups, people with a lot of IP or that work with a lot of sensitive data have some edition of Confluence deployed. So that's terrifying. But, you know, I think it speaks to the importance to sort of audit people's code base, and maybe not the code base, but audit how they go about developing a code base, like the ASVS stuff you're working on at Pax8, I think is critical to ever getting over this battle. But yeah, I think the moral of that one is please patch your Confluence. And I think the moral to any developer who may tune in is don't hard code credentials in code base.
It seems like a no-brainer, right? It's like writing your it's like writing your alarm code on the alarm code panel, right? Like to disarm, please type in this code. Huzzah! Right? But like in reality, that password's already been leaked. It was leaked on Twitter. I think it was 2 or 3 days ago. And so that password now, while you said, doesn't give you privileged access. And for anybody watching this or the Robs in the room, whenever you're becoming a threat actor and you gain a foothold, if you 100%, I got your attention. But when you gain that foothold and you're less privileged, you're not an administrative user. You're just running as the Atlassian service, if you will, that's running as a lower privileged user. I now have a foothold. I have a place to land and access. I have a way to get in the front door, right? Remember when you turned on remote control access to your machine a long time ago and you could remotely access it from home? That's the same kind of basis, right? But now what's great about that is threat actors string together vulnerabilities. So I've probably already been holding on to a Windows escalation vulnerability or a Linux escalation vulnerability that if you're not patching Atlassian, you're also not patching that OS. And so I can also remember too,
this isn't the service though. This isn't the service account. This is an account in the app itself. So like go to the website, click login, type in this set of credentials, and I'm in. And it's a member of the default group that Confluence builds. I think it's called Confluence users. So if you imagine maybe a smaller deployment of Confluence hasn't been customized at the scale of what perhaps a university would do, like the next Twitter, right? Using Confluence to
Yeah.
document all their goodies. I'll bet
So
everyone
intellectual
in that
property
Confluence
theft
users
risk.
group, right? Yeah. And again, to the point of chaining vulnerabilities, what can I do once I'm in Confluence?
Yeah. What about an
Escalation,
authenticated
user
remote code
impersonation,
execution? Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So,
Right.
but the point is, to your TLDR, patch, right?
Patch.
Let's patch.
Always patch.
Yeah,
I think we say patch every week.
Do we? Maybe we ought to start drinking when we say patch. Would that be an effective measure to end the Friday? Oh, I apologize.
Man,
Maybe
it's
I was
only
probably
2
mistaken.
for me. You know, it's
Oh, you're right. I'm a time zone or 2 away. I forgot. All right, fair enough.
Gotta work after this.
So, Rob, let's kick us over to the last set of articles, and I'm going to blaze through these two and make a little bit of a corollary. You know, you had Kyle Hanselman post this on LinkedIn all over the place as well, but you also have this concept, and this article here is talking about that experts. Oh yeah, we got. Did you wear your Huntress shirt just because I was going to be referencing Kyle? That's so smart.
Definitely not.
I digress.
It was top of the drawer this morning.
Yeah, and it's black. I have the black side of my drawer, and it's just every day I grab a black shirt. It's on the top. So vendors, if you want me to wear your shirt, black is the way to go on that one for sure. I digress. But the point is, on this one, there was a little bit ago, it came up and said, hey, there's a hacker claiming access, and the hacker was on a Russian site that was decoded or translated, and it was basically roughly asking, saying, hey, I found a bunch of VMware servers at an MSP that has 50 US companies that I can get right now through these VMware hosts. And I need help, right? Because this is how the threat actor community works. They said, hey, I need help. So they put $13,000 or half a Bitcoin at that time, whatever that would have translated to, what's 23,000 right now or so. So half a Bitcoin, and asked, hey, this is my escrow. I want to go halvesies with you. Right, like for lack of a better term. Hey, Dom, let's go halvesies on attacking this place, right? And they discussed their amount of percentage. It wasn't exactly half, but what happened is 7 days later, and I think maybe you can speak towards this from what we talked about earlier, but 7 days later, there was an MSP in Kansas City that had a website and a complete outage of their cloud services, that they were doing a hosted cloud and exchange and those type of thing environments, and it was completely out. And what I'll make is, the reason we can go to that second article, please, Rob, is this is the article that I wanted to reference, is Net Standard. Kansas MSP is down from its services. And what's interesting is, I had the pleasure of speaking with Jason Schlegel and Tom Lawrence in a series called How I Would Hack You on stage at CompTIA's ChannelCon yesterday. And we did some OSINT gathering. Rob, for the acronym perspective, OSINT is Open Source Intelligence, right? So, yep, OSINT, OSINT, Open Source Intelligence. So it's basically gathering things that I can get very easily, like DNS Dumpster, Shodan, and other services that let me.
Facebook.
Yeah, the stuff you put on Facebook to bring it home, right, Rob? You know, you answer that list that says, what's your favorite color? How old's your dad? What day of the month was he born on, right? Those kind of things that are, seemingly innocuous. But
they always ask the right questions, too. Like the questions you don't know that are, like, actually important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what size is your waistline? And you're like, why is that? Oh, I get it.
Oh, yeah, I need weight calculations. No, it's funny,
okay.
but I tease. Yeah. But the point was, we did this OSINT gathering technique in front of the live audience, and I myself found the 50 vulnerable VMware servers just through OSINT and DNS Dumpster, and they were exposed, and they did have a remote code unauthenticated capability that looked to be applicable. I didn't obviously test it, and the infrastructure was down at the time. But my point is that the call to action out of this, Dom, is what? Like, help me understand what the call to action is. What helps us with this?
I might not make any friends, but stop hosting your own crap. Like, would be my biggest one, right? Like, we've got, it doesn't even have to be Microsoft. Everyone knows all the Microsoft. I would use ABD for this kind of thing. But whatever, Amazon Workspaces or just stop hosting your own infrastructure. But short of that, I think if you're going to do that, you need to have a mature security organization behind it, right? If you're going to decide that you are a hosting company, and I personally believe that hosting and being a cloud provider, being an MSP are two different businesses, right? So it needs to be its own business, and you need to have a mature security team, mature security operation and plan behind that. And I personally think a good chunk of it needs to be in-house. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of outsourced SOC and these kind of things, but I think at your core, you need to have incident responders, you need to have investigators in-house that are understanding what is going on in the environment.
And distilling that out, Dom, what you're really saying
Yeah.
is understand the risk that you're taking on by hosting this infrastructure, understand the risk that you're taking and have the appropriate security measures and controls. Holy crap. I think, and I can say that because Rob already started us off with one. So I feel like it's acceptable at this stage. We're already demonetized, right? No ITs. But the point is that if you are going to take that on, you need to have the ability to control that risk and have a plan in place. And I think if you're going to work with a service provider that's doing that and you choose for whatever reasons to be hosted like that, which there are some arguments I've heard that still make sense, then you need to have the due diligence capabilities to know that the value and the things are being done. And the way I would say that is audited frameworks and audited compliances are going to be the part that solves that. That's why I've got Marc Menzies, my hero, C3PAO candidate, on with us today. And
you're skipping a segment.
I know. No, I'm Johnny foreshadowing. I'm just handing off accurately to you.
Okay.
Can I jump in real quick just to do this really quick? Guys, if you like the content here, please like and subscribe below, comment, share it, do the thing.
Call the buttons.
We're growing this thing. So I'm going to jump into the producer thing and say, do it. And now back to the show.
Just do it.
Let's go.
All right.
We hit the next.
So you may have heard we've got this thing called a security bootcamp coming up. I was asking for a security bootcamp back when I was a partner. We're finally doing it. I think it's full. There were sub 10 seats available. But if you want to come to one, please hit up the Pax8 website and register. We'll put you on a wait list. We'll let you know when the next one is. But anyways, I was messing around. Like, I'm a nerd, so like, what can I get into? I was messing around with video editing. So I'm going to pre-apologize to the marketing and brand teams. It's certainly not an approved on-brand video, but I had a lot of fun making it. So Rob, can you roll
Is that beg for forgiveness? Not. Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah. Pretty much. Roll my pirate commercial here.
Yeah, here we go.
Nice. Hacker's gonna hack.
Oh, that's not your pirate commercial. That's my face.
Hello, face.
Do we have audio?
Can we hear it?
We cannot hear it, as I see.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. We're going to start this over.
The dramatic effect
it's all
of
right.
the music.
We are making this cake right now. The oven is hot. This is being baked as we go. It's fantastic.
Here we go.
Hey. Much better. I has the sounds now. Two days. One mission. Secure your business.
It's so epic.
It's fun. I'm not going to quit my day job. That was fun.
Oh, this is my favorite segment.
A Masters of Fine Art.
Multi-factor authentication.
Multi-factor authentication.
Yes.
No.
Insecure direct object reference.
This is so bad.
I'm going to have to pass. I'm not sure.
Endpoint detection and response.
Oh, in development research.
Electronic data something.
Endpoint device response.
I'm gonna bust slap you on that one.
Oh man.
Operations in disposal can.
SDLC, San Diego, Louisiana County.
Service desk something.
I feel like it's software-defined something. I might have to pass on that one too. I've never been a good test taker, so.
Wesley. Oh my goodness.
I love acronyms.
Wow. Acronym
Might be my new favorite
Acrobatics.
segment.
It is my favorite segment, like 100%. I am absolutely in love with that segment. The team that made that is amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, fantastic. All right, so let's kick into the rest of this. And, you know, we got done with our news segment. We've got our acrobatics in. I do want to say, Wesley, I'm going to call you, brother. I'm hoping you're watching this one. But yeah, that's why we do these, is to point them out.
Right.
I'd love to introduce a good friend of mine. I've gotten to know this gentleman over the last year and a half, 2 years or so, through the end of the pandemic. And I see him as a trusted advisor and a forward thinker. I'm actually doing this because he's paying me by the word as I introduce him. So I've added a few more of these. But
There you go.
no, without further ado, let's bring Marc Menzies in. He's a good friend. Would you introduce yourself, sir?
Marc Menzies. That's how you pronounce the last name, Rob.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you. I was
Nailed it.
going to see if you held on. To
I
that.
heard.
You did.
I heard the whole thing.
I'm sorry.
I actually had some. So I'm the president and CTO of Overview Technology Solutions, and I've created a little scoreboard here. And I don't know if you could see this, but it has the unforgivable sins. So we got one for Matt here for HIPAA, and we got one for Rob for mispronouncing my name.
That's right.
So we'll
That's fair, though. No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
It is insurance. I mean, it's been there since '96.
All I've got to say, Mark, is that you just keep the pen off, or keep the cap off that pen.
Yeah, you're not done yet. You're gonna write a few more down, brother.
In all fairness, I do have my name on it too. Just I'm not.
And that's what I love about you,
scrutiny.
right? That's an auditor.
Right.
It's true.
It's so good. So Mark, you've been on our partner advisory council at Pax8 for quite a while now. I genuinely see you as a trusted advisor, and I've actually sat next to you when advising in the past in a former life, right? And so we've kind of gotten to go through that whole journey together.
It just kind of happened.
I know, but sometimes we go by M's, right? LM. My last name's Lee, so they put us in order. It sucks. I had some of those kids that had to sit by me in school too, man. Same way. I digress, but tell us about your journey. You're an MSP, right? As at least in your initial birth as an origin story. Help me understand kind of what you do and talk about your company a little bit.
So I feel like we're more of a hybrid solutions provider than a managed services provider. And that goes back a couple years, as to kind of how we define ourselves. But not as much as jack of all trades, master of none, but more along the lines of that we're strategic in some of the services that we provide to our clients, or OSCs in the DIB space. But anyway,
you used an acronym. No. You use two acronyms now. What? Let's go ahead. You got to define them on this show if you're going to use them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
It's like variables in programming. Yeah.
Fair enough. Oh, that's define. No OSC, organization seeking compliance, and DIB is the defense industrial base. So anybody that is a subcontractor or prime of Department of Defense, essentially. Yes. See, I got those right.
Continue.
I think I did. I got to Google them.
Oh, that's not nice. That's not. Why would you poke me
I'm gonna
right
stop.
away?
I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop because I'm gonna get screwed on that if I'm not careful.
Crap. Where did my pen go?
I was gonna say. So my journey begins, in the if we're talking about the C3PAO piece, my journey basically begins, as many of my adventures do, with being ill-informed about something and making choices that negatively affect me, but eventually positively affect others. So I learned about this great thing called CMMC a few years ago, and my buddy JP Kesey actually was he told me about it, and he's like, hey, you got to look into this thing that I see on the horizon. And that was about a little over 2 years ago. And, I saw the different types of organizations and relationships that you could, create.
And I wanted to say, Mark, real quick.
Yeah.
I apologize for that bad advice, like at least twice. So, you don't have to call me out. No, I'm just teasing you. But JP Kesey, another good friend of ours, right? We were all going down similar journeys together, right? As you're referencing from 3 years ago, we all were, and you may have joined a little later, but we were all in an ongoing conversation every week about CMMC and trying to meet the CMMC standards as we hoped in our future. And so we went through similar journeys together at that time.
Yeah, quite the roller coaster we've been on since then, huh? They changed all the things since we started on that. But so anyway,
if we get going down that one, it'll take an hour. So I'll let you
if
continue
not more.
on that.
I got this timer here telling me how long we got left, so I'm just gonna be sensitive to that. But what I was gonna say, if you make it flash, that'd be cool too.
Okay.
But
all
no,
right.
but
all right. Okay.
You got.
I'll make it flash one day.
One day you'll get there. But no, so the long and the short is that we accidentally signed up to be a certified third-party assessor organization. We paid the fee, we did the thing. I then realized that maybe we didn't sign up for the correct one, and then started actually reading into what it is. And an organization that could audit and assess rather organizations that are seeking compliance and kind of give them a stamp. and it's a longer journey, a much longer road than we thought it was going to be. But we really feel like we needed that. We needed to do a lot of deep looking. We needed to do the that deep introspection, not only for ourselves and for our clients, but for the greater community too. I strongly feel that rising tide raises all ships. So I want to.
I love that slogan. It's actually on my website, so you and I speak the same language in that regard. Tell me about this, because you said something I think that's interesting about how you had to look at yourself and be introspective and realize what, as an MSP or as a solutions provider, you needed to change, right? I remember a lot of that work we all kind of were starting to go through, and Sheldon Phillips and JP Kesey and you, and ultimately Joy Beeland, and all of that space. But what are some of the little things to help our audience understand that you had to change? Like, give me a couple of tactical examples if you can, off the cuff.
I mean, all the things that you do that you're not supposed to do, that you tell your clients not to do, but you're kind of like, oh, I'm just doing this. Like, I don't know, being a global admin on your own Office 365, like, not using an admin, user for any of those, privileged tasks. We all did it. It's, you made the account, 5-10 years ago, and you're like, well, I'm the GA and, whatever, nothing bad will happen. I have MFA on, then something bad happens, even though you had MFA on. But the long and the short is that, like, understanding those things and not looking at it as as one giant task to tackle. It's just chipping away at it, moving the needle. Iterative improvement, I think you said. I wrote that down because I like writing things down. You see, I listened to you, Matt. I listened to you. And that's what we really had to do. We had to, we had to look at ourselves and see, well, what are we really doing here? And that also reflects back to not only ourselves, but it reflects to our employees too. It's important that, people who work with you, trust the process, and they're proud of what they do. And they know that the skeletons in the closet, that they're there, but they're, slowly being unearthed. They're being taken care of. Risk assessments are being done. Gap analysis.
So you mean you're being transparent and humble as you move forward, right? I'm sorry, that's one of my shticks right now, is that transparency is really that, hey, I need to improve this. I cannot right now. I only have so many hours in a week, but I will improve this, and it will be iterative. I love that, Mark. That's beautiful.
Exactly. And it's important because, the people that you work with, that trust factor, that transparency is just like super important. It's I'm on the younger side in terms of business owners, and so a lot of my employees are around the same age as me, and so it's been sometimes a struggle for me, as I'm growing up, to sort of sometimes command that respect that you would have if maybe you had a couple more years on the clock. And what I found is that I am able to command the respect through transparency and honesty, and that generally, it just makes everything so much easier. I always tell everybody, yes, I'm ethical, yes this, yes that, but it's a hell of a lot easier to always tell the truth than to keep track of all the lies. So that's kind of how we run things here. So,
love that mantra.
And it's an ethics discussion.
It's good though, and sadly, if you look at MSPs as employers or service providers as employers, it's not common. So I appreciate that. I mean, so as you're making these changes, right? I think all of us have been in charge of a service provider at some capacity or level. What were your internal battles like, even with yourself? Because I went through a similar thing of like, oh, I'm in global admin 12 hours a day. I shouldn't be doing that. Like, I'm literally checking emails that could be stupid and have snuck through something and snuck past my spidey senses, or what have you. How long, or I guess really what sort of hurdles are you running with yourself or with your team as you're building these sort of secure operational maturity improvements?
Setting those internal processes are, my team made it a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I kind of ran the IT show for a long time, and it was just me and only me. And then I let the people who have been with me, for a long time, 8-9 years in. And Jesse Bennett, Anthony Torres, they've been long haulers. They've been with me a long time. They're amazing people. I know Anthony's flying out to Bootcamp soon. I'm trying to get Jesse to go. But I started giving them access. Started to talk about to different types of access, and I'm forgetting words now, but not having all of the.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Whoa! Stop! No, stop. Would you go ahead and mark down one from Mark? You can't forget words on this show,
Got
Mark.
it.
That's
Yep.
not.
I already did.
I just
It's
didn't.
there.
Oh, thank goodness! Thank goodness! I love that honesty and transparency and humility. That's really good, Mark. Thank you.
Oh man. But not having that centralized access with one person holding all the cards essentially is one of the most difficult things to do, and that we're still working on a little bit in certain ways. But having Anthony be the network manager, for example, which means they do changes, but having a change approval board, which means that instead of me up at 3 a.m. doing things and like kind of mad scientisting it in our production environment, I have to like have conversations and document and write things down and have failback plans that make it actually easier to undo the things that you do and screw up because you're going to make mistakes. And anyway, that's that was sort of the hardest part, was kind of just setting up those processes. But again, the team made it easy. I'm the difficult one, not them.
Well, I love even in your first examples on the tactical aspect, right? When you're starting to talk about we need to take away password or we need to take away access, we need to, right? As we talk about those pieces, they're all process. They're not technology. I mean, are there technology elements? Yes, I might have to get some type of password elevation thing. I might have to put in PAM. I might have to separate it, but it's all process. And what people fail to understand a lot when it comes from the way our brains work as MSPs is we've always thought efficiency, efficacy, tools that make our life easier, RMM, PSA, save the world, all these other things, all the screen connect, remote access, all these, but we didn't think about those from a process perspective of how we limited principles of least privilege. We didn't think about that from a process perspective and how we had separation of duties, which is what you're describing, right? This 2 nuclear keys, if you will. And I think that is the transition. I think that's the transition of how do you do that? And when I was at my MSP, we had a separation of duties capability because I had 170 people. I had 6 people on my security and compliance teams. We had that ability to say, physically, I'm separating the access by human level in a lot of ways. But when you're a smaller MSP or even a mid-size MSP, you often have times where you're wearing 2 hats and holding 2 keys for 2 purposes, right? And that gets really tough to do in a process perspective. Mark, any thoughts on that?
Interestingly enough, Matt, so we in the C3PAO journey, I've met quite a few like-minded individuals. There's about 200 or so C3PAO candidates. I think there's about 15 or 20 authorized C3PAOs. Anyway, what's interesting is that there are a lot of smaller providers than I'd expect that are C3PAOs, and a few of them.
All right, you've used C3PAO 100 times. We're back to this acronym. We haven't introduced this variable.
I think we covered it.
So
okay,
the only
reason I didn't stop him was because I had already looked it up. So
okay, what is it, Rob? Go ahead.
No
looking, no cheating. No, you looked it up. You started this. You threw this baseball.
Okay, I got this. Okay.
All right, go.
It's a droid robot from a very important film franchise.
That's exactly it. We are talking about a bronze humanoid robot that wanders around and talks to. Yeah. Good. We're solved.
Speaks all the languages.
So Matt
I'm gonna try again.
He introduced it, and then Rob got one for I don't know why. I gave Rob one too. I don't know. He did something.
Hey, that sounds like my entire life all the time. I'm used to it.
So I'm gonna try this, Mark. Though I'm gonna redeem myself. Certified third party auditing organization. I would have already failed in Wheel of Fortune, right? Like I would have already just stumbled on myself. Oh gosh, this
assessor organization. Assessor.
Oh, I was totally wrong. Oh,
so he's got 3. Is there an ejection seat? Do I press the button's not working? Whatever.
It'd have to be able to pick up a lot of weight to be an ejection seat.
I would push the button, but there's a lot of buttons here to push, and I've already pushed a lot of wrong ones anyways. So
fair. Let's continue. But certified third-party assessor organization.
Yes, sir. So there were a lot of smaller ones that are there, and a bunch of them approached me, and we created basically a package, a system for those whenever they're ready, so that they can have that delegation or separation of duties rather, and delegate that to a third party, because you can't be a one-man shop and run your environment and do this and do that. You can't do separation of duties properly that way. So in the same way that when we were doing policy building, we enlisted the help, professional services help from Sheldon Phillips and the team at Covenant. You can ask others for help, and also don't be afraid to pay for it, because there's things that you're good at and there's things that others are good at, and you're just because you're in IT doesn't mean you can't pay for IT. We pay for it. You know, our
Yeah.
vendor bills are pretty high. Our Pax8 bill's a little ridiculous, but anyway. But
I've been trying to pad that a little bit to pay for vacation, but thank you for bringing it up.
I see. No, it's all right. I saw the there's this it just says
Matt
Matt
Lee
Lee. Yeah. They did it like an Azure bill. It's like an Azure bill. There's like it's line itemized. It's like 100 line items on there, like eyelashes, everything. That's kind of weird, anyway.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but no, that's how
Those
we're
are
doing. That's
mine.
how we're helping
Those are
separation of
mine.
duties. That's what I
Sorry.
recommend. Yeah. Those are yours.
I do
Yeah.
appreciate that conversation about separation of duties by employing other people. And I think that organizational separation that you're talking about, by having Marc's organization solve this piece for me to a assessor, I suppose, since we're not using auditor in this conversation, but an auditor assessor that's coming in, absolutely makes an easier story to tell when I say Dom is the one that does this service for me and is the only one that holds that key, and we have to do this process to do so. And I think you're creating a separation of duties at an organizational level and at a real organizational level. You see a lot of companies that got in trouble, you know, by trying to say we have both sides of it, but we keep it pretty separate. And we're, you know, that's not the way this works, right? And so I do love that teaming up and co-opetition, if you will, and paying for subject matter expertise. So, yeah, has that been working well for you, Marc? Are you finding growth in that?
So in that space, yes, absolutely. It's we're working on our exact like strategy, because while being a candidate, we can't assess anybody. We can act as more of an RPO, which is a registered practitioner organization. I'm getting good at this, guys. Which is a definition that's used by the Cyber AB, formerly the CISSP.
Well, hold on just a second. I would like to share my screen for the registered provider organization, Mr. Practitioner.
They changed it.
You know, if that's the way you're going to roll, I'm okay with it.
Maybe they didn't change it. I got two now. Dom, well, I don't know. Dom's not talking enough. He doesn't have anything. I don't know.
Yeah, he's strategic like that for sure. It's fun.
Yeah.
Oh man, I want to get to the meat of this though. Yeah, I thought it was provider. I had to have a win.
You've shattered me. I'm done. I'm gonna get up and leave now.
That's how I felt. You destroyed me. I lost a beard hair earlier because of that with my HIPAA.
I'm sorry.
No, let's get back to it though. One of the things I wanted to make a corollary to from the news article is, if you set a standard that says I won't expose VMware servers to the public, and you have a policy that governs that, and then you have a procedure and a process that fall under that policy, and you can prove artifact that you're following it, and someone is assessing you, as we've discussed, would you find it better from a security protection if you're talking to someone? Like having audited versus self-attested, which one works out better for security in your opinion?
How like verbose can I be in my language on this podcast?
As much as you want. Rob's already set the stage.
I've already done it. We've already gone.
Yeah,
there,
you already said
good.
the S word, man. I gotta say that because I got kids in the next room. But I self-assessment is like smelling your own farts. All right, it's no one. Your
smells like roses.
It don't stink. It smells like roses. Exactly. You don't know that there's a problem. It's always like that.
Well, everyone loves their own brand, right? Everyone loves their own brand.
Well, it's not where I was.
But
going
I think
with
to
this.
your point, right? Marc, I've had people, and I want to give everybody the background. So, NIST SP special publication 800-171, which was the earliest adaptation of 853 for the DIB that we've already talked about. So back then, I was in a 270,000 square foot manufacturing facility that had giant 5-axis Machinos with trains. They had 35 machines in there. They could produce massive, massive parts for Learjet and Boeing. They were the ones that were making the parts for the planes that were very much stolen. And I sat in a boardroom with their executives, right, of this multi-$100 million company, and asked at that time to me, Matt, their chief technology officer, how long can I lie about 800-171? That was the exact phrase, the exact context of the question. And the point is, for anyone listening, 800-171 was a self-attested. You would say, yes, I locked the front door every day. Yes, I checked to make sure the locks work. Yes, the dog's definitely always out. Yes, my shotgun's loaded. Yes, I checked the back door. Yes, I set the alarm every day. Yes, but not actually doing any of it, or even having an alarm or a dog or a shotgun potentially. And so I think the challenge is going from a self-attested model of 801.71 was an abject failure because of the exact boardroom conversation that must have played out thousands and thousands of times all the way across the defense industrial base. So that's my pulpit for that, is that's where that comes from. And I wanted to stress the importance of an assessing organization to say, this isn't what you said it is, right?
Remember, that's why we all
met those
flipped out when
standards.
CMMC 2.0 dropped. They're like, well, if you're going to be level 1, like, just promise
You want
us
to trigger
and
me?
we're
You're
good.
getting one for you're getting one for that. Trigger
There it
me.
is.
Finally,
Dom got
I'm
one.
on the board.
Super stoked about the score sheet now. I feel much better about life. We are
I was
all
in an
favor of
airport
it.
when 2.0 dropped, man. I was in an airport and I saw it. And I saw this thing pop up and I started reading it. I was in Greensboro Airport. I was freaking out. I was like, "What is this hot garbage?" That just anyway. I'm just kidding. They're doing a great job. We're super happy.
Yeah.
Oh, this has
LinkedIn
been
was,
a
like,
fantastically
universally
fun
pissed
show.
off on that day. Like, it was yeah.
Oh,
Because it's
I
a
lost
joke,
it.
right? It's
Yeah.
yeah. Especially,
And it since has
people like Mark
pendulum
and
swung
Joey did all
back.
this work.
Thank God it
It
did.
has.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've clarified things at least, and at least we have direction, and
Yes.
we have a little weekly cohort with the Edwards Performance crew for our CCP training, because I took my CCP training back in October, thinking that I was just going to take an assessment. I'm using the word assessment. Then my tests right away. As it turns out, a year. So we're just doing weekly meetings, just hour-long weekly meetings, trying to just keep sharp. It's actually been very helpful. They're great. Anyway.
But from a certified framework for everyone that's listening, and I assume everybody knows it, but sometimes they don't, right? With CMMC Dom, what's different about it than 801.71 at the end of the day? Like, give people the 30-second elevator pitch of CMMC.
I mean, it has teeth. Like it has teeth. Like, that's 800. When 801.71 came out, I had a couple customers in the consulting space that we were working with that had defense contracts. One of them was a recruiting agency, and I fired them because that's a rough business to be in. But anyways, the other one pretty much took it for the exact story that you brought up with that CTO you were working with, right? It's like, oh, I'm supposed to do this, but literally nobody is going to check. And I think when the government says they're going to audit something, going back to HIPAA, they're not going to do it. They're just not.
Yeah.
So these front-end assessments are teeth, right? And now we're finally seeing, DIBCAT come out and say, hey, oh God, defense industrial base.
Uh-oh.
I forgot CAC. It's on me.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh man.
I get
You
so
know what?
used
We
to
won't give you a
acronyms, they're
point
just
because you
words
didn't
now.
say the wrong. Yeah, it is DIBCAC though. But
I mean,
one of
common
the things that
access
we
cards,
have
we'll just
that
throw out phrases. But they're coming out and saying, hey, you said you had an SSP, you have 5 days to get it to me. So they're adding
Yes,
teeth
I
and they're
saw that.
using those teeth, right? And
Yeah.
and that's what CMC is.
What's
to
an
me.
SSP, Dom?
System security plan.
Gave him a chance to redeem himself, and he
Bingo!
nailed it. And he nailed it. Yeah, man. So there's a very important also question that seems to be looming in the audience, and I didn't expect this much pushback when it comes to compliance, but they seem to be asking about the cello behind you. Is that actually one that you can play, or is it just a checkbox like normal
bass.
compliance?
Rob, I need you to do a wide on this. It's actually there's a bass back there and there's a cello.
Oh my God!
What? It's
Magic!
amazing, right?
That was so magical.
I knew there was a cello. That was so
Holy
good.
crap.
Mind blown. The bass
Oh
had a
my
baby.
God.
Right? No
I
one
was
saw
like,
that
It's
coming.
literally
I'm
both.
watching the chat talk about the bass, and I don't want to correct anyone. Or the cello. I was like, that's a bass, people. But then he just magically pulls a cello out.
I
of his-
knew
There's a
he
cello.
played cello. I didn't know he played a bass, actually.
For anybody that doesn't know, the bass is the thing that it kind of more like a teardrop on top, and the cello is more circular on top. So there we are, everybody.
You
You've
got
learned
me
something
crying.
today.
All right, fair.
And it's real. It's not just a background.
Just
That's
saying,
awesome. So
if,
that's
if,
the
if,
CMC
if
audited,
this whole
cello.
CEO thing doesn't work out, you could go into being a magician, because
Oh
that
yeah,
was
sleight of hand was
absolutely
amazing
magical.
on that one.
That was well done.
I think I pull
Great
things
execution.
out of my every day. So yeah.
Yeah, I imagine. We heard about that in your testing methodology with the fart mechanism. So
There
yeah,
you
I
go.
suppose we're
Fart
there.
mechanism.
But I think the point that I was making, Dom, is that it is something where you pay someone else using capitalism to take that and say, yes, based on the standards that have been stayed out there, you have met them, You have secured this information, right, that is part of the CUI or controlled unclassified information. And you've done those things to protect the defense industrial base and the motions of creating things that we use to protect everyday lives and or grow our government.
Much the same way an investor expects to see audited financial statements from a publicly traded company. Right?
100%.
And the risk in the DIB is significantly higher than investor money, if we're really thinking about it. Right.
And it has shorter.
Like if you make a missile, right? Like
pretty much, yeah. If I can now, and I mean, this all goes back. If anybody wants to have the history of this, and I'm a little history on it, can maybe summative, but you know, we built the F-35. The F-35 program is one of the seminal moments for the understanding of the defense industrial base risk to the United States of America. We built the F-35 in about a 22 year program period, right, over the course of time. And that was stolen from us and built as an exact copy by China, or almost exact copy by China, within 5 years of that. And what that came from was just how loose and how weak the ability to gather things you can reverse engineer from, the ability to get those plans or those movements of that spindle head for cutting the part, or right, those things that are listed as not really classified, but they're controlled unclassified information. And Mark, is that the heart of what
remember
CMMC?
It was FOMO back then.
Yeah.
It wasn't even
CUI.
FOMO.
It was FOMO. Wow, that's my past coming out.
Dope.
In real FOUO. FOO.
FOO.
For
Okay.
official use only was the old school version of CUI, and everything you could imagine was FOUO, including pretty much all the information stolen from OPM back in the day, like my social security number.
Office of Personnel Management?
Yeah, the big giant OPM breach. What year was it? It was like 2015, 2016. Oh, you were going for the acronym. Sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't going to miss it. Yeah, no, I want points here, or reduction.
Dom got another one, so
I missed it. Yeah, I got another one.
All right, Matt, you're still winning or losing. I don't know which direction.
I think it's a shared loss.
It's a shared loss. We're a team here.
It's a team game here.
Yeah,
it's a team game.
I just wanted it to feel more like cybersecurity in general, right? It's always a shared loss. But I digress. So back to the point of, you know, that's what started the beginning of this process of the government basically saying, hey, how do we protect ourselves when this is in the hands of general companies and citizens? But it also speaks, Dom and Mark, to my opinion, that this is not the end of the beginning even. We're going to start seeing more of this grappling with the problem in the insurance markets, in the regulatory markets, in the privacy space in most states, in the regulatory of our existence. Over the next 5 years, we're going to see such a material change of this ramping up, right? We have CIRSIA that we've talked about before, which is the cybersecurity critical. Give me another point, Mark. I don't have CIRSIA down.
I ran out of space.
That's a long acronym.
I get them backwards, but yeah, you don't have to give me excuses. I'll take my point. I feel fine with it. But the point is, CIRSIA is the Critical Infrastructure Reporting Act, essentially saying, hey, we need to start having fast reporting. So we have threat actor information and TTPs. We have the capabilities to gather this data from each of these incidents. Techniques, tactics, and practices. I think I might be wrong on the P on right? TTPs.
Protocols.
I don't remember. I think it's practices, but I've been wrong before many times. Give me a half point. Give Dom half point because we both struggled over it. Neither one of us knew.
You guys are like humbling yourselves, and all I can hear is Mark going.
Mark's ink's gonna run out. He's gonna send us the pen bill. He's like, man, my ink
I'm drawing on
out.
the desk, guys. I'm just drawing on the desk at this point.
Yeah, it's probably fair. But the point is we're going to see an expansion of this. And I think the muscles that are being flexed and the principles that Mark talked about looking at yourself, trying to find ways to protect some of those processes so that you have more, what I like to call living compromised, right? When I was at my former MSP, I always had this term. I talked to our security team about living compromised. Understand that you will always have some level of compromisation. How do I limit the risk? How do I limit the impact? How do I find it faster? How do I respond to it? And how do I recover? And as you take and apply these principles, whether it be CIS or whether it be 800-171 or CMMC type protocols or practices, then you'll be able to assess and protect yourself. And as a global community of economies, we all have to start doing that, or we will not have a future in the same way we do today. And our children will simply not have the same trust in technology. So this is going to continue expanding. Mark, you're on the forefront of it. If you want to look into this camera and that camera, can I even say that? Do we have any copyright? Anyways, doesn't matter. But Mark, any thoughts? What do you have? They haven't, and I don't think they will. But
No.
tell us what you got going on, right? Wrap up for us a little bit, and then I might ask you, if you have time, we've got 9 minutes left to wrap this up. I'd love to see if you'd play the cello for us or the bass, either of your choosing, if you can do it. If you're not ready,
That costs extra.
you know,
I don't have the mic set up for
can
it.
I double
mean,
what
it's
I'm already
just-
paying you, or anyways? But there was a request
you can,
for
it's
it. But
gonna
you're
be
right.
the same.
I think you
Okay,
could just take
fair.
the eyelashes off of the invoice that you sent him. I don't need those.
That'd be fantastic.
Okay,
That was
fair.
for aside from the unicorn tears, that was by far the most expensive thing on there.
Yeah, fair. All right. Well, go ahead, and if you will, anything to say to people as kind of closing up from today's conversation.
I mean, it's it's exciting to be working with working with all different parts of the defense industrial base now. It sounds so weird, but I guess the hardest part for us is just staying up with everything. So I lean on a lot of organizations like Pax8, like Edwards, professionals that that we work with, just collaborate. I mean, if I run into MSPs sometimes that just like kind of everyone's the enemy, or you're trying to take something from me. It's like, no, you want something, I'll give it to you. Please, if you want a cup of sugar, ask your neighbor. Just rising tide ships the whole thing. So that's it.
That's beautiful. I love it. Dom.
I don't know. That was a good wrap up. I got nothing except click all the buttons, click all the buttons and ask your neighbors for sugar. I like it.
Yeah, and I'll close it out with this of that. I have this principle in life, and it's not failed me. Most people aren't humble enough to ask for help. Most people aren't humble enough to know their weaknesses and make choices to move forward. And I've never found a time where I've asked for help in a humble way that's transparent and understands, right, that, and not have someone help me or explain to me why they could not, or how my context or my understanding was incorrect. And I think if we all start to realize that we're all behind, we're all failing, we all need to grow, we all are in a world of technology that needs to continue to escalate and iterate and raise the tide, as Marc says, then it doesn't hurt to go ask someone. They will help you. I've got such a love for the community of all the people that Marc's mentioned. JP, he's been on our show. We have Sheldon Phillips, who's a fantastic guy around policy and the understanding of how CMMC should be implemented. And Marc has helped me in many ways in the same right. So ask your neighbor for sugar. That's going to be the new slogan. But Marc Menzies, thank you so much for being here. I can't tell you enough. I love you. And I'm happy to have you in my circle. So please click the buttons, do the things, follow us. We promise to clean up language next time. This was a little avant-garde show of a bunch of friends getting together. But go be cyber safe. We really appreciate you, and continue to play the game to win.